Hello and welcome back to my channel. November is over. Where did this year go? Where did the summer go? Where did November go? I literally don't understand, but we are in December now. So I'm going to be wrapping up what I read in November. Before I get into it, I just want to have a quick thank you to Watkins for sending me this. So number one, we have your work wellness toolkit. I'll be honest, I did request these because you don't ask, you don't get. But this comes out on January the 11th, 2022, and it's basically full of like worksheets, guides, advice, etc. And I feel like I kind of wanted this at the time I requested it, because if you're new to my channel, I've moved jobs in the last couple of months. So I was at Bloomsbury Publishing and I now work at Bonnier Books UK. So I thought it's kind of like necessary to look after yourself and your well-being when moving jobs, because obviously the natural stresses that come with that. I then also requested something a little bit different that technically is classed as publishing, but you'll see what I mean. It's these challenge cards. So it says get out of your comfort zone, that's the name of the publication. 60 challenge cards to build a strong, resilient mindset. I just saw this and was like, this sounds cool, this sounds fun. So if we open up, you have like a little booklet in there explaining how to do everything, and then inside you can see I literally haven't even opened it yet. Inside there's all these different colourful funky cards, and they're basically, like it says on the tin, it's just different like challenges for you to do to like kind of build yourself, build yourself mentally, I don't know. So the only one I've read so far is the first one, which is stranger selfie. So it's challenge, take a selfie of yourself with a stranger, difficulty medium, and it goes on to explain like why you should do this and how, and to make it even harder, I messaged my boyfriend and sent a photo of this, and I was like, this will make such a cool YouTube video, like I want you to get in it with me and do these things. And he was like, absolutely not. I was like, why? It'll be fun. I sent him the first one. I was like, oh look, for example, the first one's just take a photo of a stranger, and he was like, I'm not doing that. So I was like, maybe it's just me, but I thought it would be like just quite a fun, different YouTube video that's still kind of relating to publishing, and very thankful to Watkins for sending me both of these. So yes, that's your work wellness toolkit and get out of your comfort zone challenge cards. So what I read in November 2021, I started off with undoubtedly my new favourite book ever. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I have seen this all over BookTok, all over BookTube, all over Bookstagram, and was like, okay, fine, I'll see what the fuss is about. I was like given this, lent it by a friend. She said to me, oh, I read it in one sitting and I cried my eyes out, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. I'll see what it's about. I went into it not really knowing what the book was about. I kind of assumed it was like a romance novel, but sometimes I quite like doing that to kind of like surprise myself. Don't really know what the premise is. I can't even explain it. There's so much that goes on, not in a confusing way. Ultimately, it's about the main character called Lily Bloom, and it starts with her on the rooftop of this building, and she's kind of like debating her life and like what is life, etc. And she meets a like neurosurgeon person there. They both just like, hey, we're never going to see each other again, let's just tell each other these naked truths, which is their way of basically saying, I'm going to ask you a question, you have to just tell me the honest truth no matter what the answer is. And that kind of like unfolds throughout the story. She just, by way of being in a small town, she opens up her own flower shop, and her employee turned best friend, she meets her brother, and it turns out to be that neurosurgeon that she met on that rooftop. And classic, they start like dating, etc. And it's about their relationship and how that develops, but it's also about her and her best friend that's her colleague at this floral shop. And what also happens in this is another character who's called Atlas. He was her childhood lover, like her first love, her teenage love, and she has written all of these kind of like diary entries about that at the time when she was sort of like 15, 16, and the author's really clever in the fact that she weaves those diary entries throughout. So there'll just be a chapter or something where it's all in italics and it's her writing these diary entries explaining like her first love. Again, small town, this guy Atlas turns out to be like the owner of a restaurant that they go to, so she kind of bumps into them. So it's kind of a lot like heavily about relationships. I was sobbing by the end of it. I started reading it and then I got like halfway and was on the train and was like, I'm on my way to work and I'm going to start crying, so I need to like breathe, take this in, just for many reasons, mainly being, and trigger warning to anyone here listening, there are sensitive topics in it, so like domestic abuse, etc. The main character comes from a family where her dad mistreated her mother. There's just so much happens in it that was just done so well, and like I'm literally obsessed with it. I would read it again and again if I could, if I had the time for that. I would just literally recommend it to anyone. I was sobbing by the end of it, and you'll see why. I rarely say that something is my new favourite book, but I said this was. I did post a review on this on my Bookstagram, and if you're not following my Bookstagram, that's Eleanor, so Eleanor, M rows of 2 E's. I put a review and I basically said, yeah, horrible and beautiful and everything in between, best book I've read in a while, and that's exactly it. It covers such horrible topics, but it's beautifully written, and you want to know more. I want there to be like another side of it. At the same time, I'm like, it was perfectly ended. But yeah, I could not put it down and was constantly thinking about it afterwards. That was after I had finished crying. My boyfriend started FaceTime me like a few minutes after I finished, and he was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, just sat there in silence, and I had tears run down. He was like, what's up? And I was just held it up, and I was like, he was like, oh, you finished your book then? I was like, yeah, and I told him what it was about, and I was like, you're never going to read this, so I'm going to tell you what it's about. I just literally sat there, before he called me, I just sat there after I'd finished reading it and was just like, what is this? What is this? And I not folded over some of the page, but like taken photos of some of the quotes in it, because it's not my copy. Normally I do the dog ears thing and fold over the quotes, but there's so many quotes from it that I'm like, wow, that was perfect. I am now aware that Colleen Hoover is like a really famous novelist, author, etc., and that she's got like so many other books out, which I was not aware of. This is the first I've read of her books, so if you have read any of her other books, I'd love to know which ones are like the ones that I should definitely read next. I've seen some kind of like mixed reviews on them, but yeah, that, if I could recommend that to anyone, read it. I then moved on to something a little bit different, and that's E.Lockhart's We Were Liars. This came out like many years ago, and I actually had a copy on my bookshelf forever ago, and I now work at Bonnie Books UK and Hotkey Books, which is the publisher of said book, so I decided to give it a read. It's quite a small book. Again, I didn't really know what this book was about, and the back blurb just literally is like, we are liars, which are lies, which truth you decide. Literally doesn't tell you anything about the book, so I went in kind of blind. I will be totally honest, it did take me a little while to get into, in the fact that I was like, this isn't my normal writing choice. There's a lot of short, sharp sentences, so if you're not a fan of that. There are quite a few characters, and for me personally, this is just a personal thing. I struggle when there's like more than 2 characters, because I get confused between all their names, etc. So that's just another thing to bear in mind. But overall did enjoy it, and there is a twist at the end, which you've probably seen all over Bookstagram. Some people said they guessed it. I guessed the opposite of it. If you know what I'm talking about, I guessed that it was the other way round, because of a similar book that I've read. But yeah, there is the prequel coming out, Family of Liars, in I think it's May 2022 by Hotkey Books. So if you have read this, make sure you pre-order Family of Liars. If you haven't read this yet, make sure you pick up We Were Liars first, because you don't want to read Family of Liars before you read We Were Liars, because it will spoil this one for you, and it probably just won't make any sense. That was We Were Liars. Next, I moved on to something completely different, a different genre and a different age group. Monster Doughnuts. This is one of my new favourite kids books. I absolutely love this. I found this really funny. Like, I was chuckling on the train. It took me one day to read. I read half of it on the way up to London, half it on the way back to London. It was just really funny. It's about these 2 sisters that are like these monster hunters. They destroy these monsters that are on their world by shoving donuts down their mouths. Each different monster has a different favourite donut, and they'll explode once they're destroyed. But this one monster, Mr. Harris, comes in, and he's a Cyclops, and they can't get rid of him, and he's off to eat or meet the Prime Minister, and they're kind of like trying to stop it. So it's full of like adventure, full of monsters, full of donuts, full of explosions. Literally enjoyed it as a quote adult. But definitely good for like all age groups in terms of children's. Cute, funny pictures throughout it as well. Like, you can just see little paw prints down there, more like bigger pictures. I think the age group is technically probably like 6 to 9, but you could definitely read it to a younger audience, and you could have older people like myself read it. So that is Monster Doughnuts. There is Monster Doughnuts 2 coming out in January by Piccadilly Press, and I would recommend you read this and then pre-order the second one. There is also a third one that's coming out, I think July, August. So I literally cannot wait to read the second ones and see what happens with Mr. Harris and the 2 monster hunters. So that was Gianna Pollero's Monster Doughnuts. I also went to an author event a couple of weeks ago, or last week time, where Gianna was in Ashford Waterstones and she was signing some copies, so that was really fun. Got some photos of her, etc. And genuinely an amazing author, like so lovely, so good with kids, so good at describing her own book, so chatty, etc. So yeah, amazing author, amazing book. I feel like I'm talking really fast. My dad said that to me recently, that I just don't make any sense because I'm talking too fast, so... And on that note, I move on to Enough, which was kindly gifted to me by Watkins Wisdom, Watkins Publishing. This is written by Jessica Rose Williams and comes out on January the 11th, 2022. Enough is a book about minimalism in its minimalistic description. It's about learning to accept that everything that you have is enough, that what you are is enough, that everything around you is enough. I said that another title for this could be How to Be a Minimalist or Minimalism, because that is what the book's theme is about. Something that I love the idea of it being enough, and this proof copy is stunning and the final cover art is stunning as well, which I'll enter a photo of here. I love the idea of, like, you know, reassuring yourself that you're enough, but the idea of minimalism, I was like, oh, I'm actually a very messy person, but since reading this book, it has changed me. It has changed my thinking on a lot of things in terms of clutter, in terms of the things that I need in life, you know, not overwhelming myself and my, like my assets and my clothes, etc. It's a little bit more of like a chunky book, but at the end of each chapter, there are a few pages of like where you can, I haven't actually written in here because I don't like doing that, but there's some pages there where you can write your thoughts and do some exercises that's more like a CBT therapy kind of thing. So it's split into part 1, Enough Things, so that's talking about like decluttering, which probably was my favourite chapter. Part 2, Enough Space, which is talking about like friendships and stuff, and then part 3, Enough Within, which is obviously more to do with yourself and how you perceive yourself and your life. Since reading this book, as I said, I have done so much decluttering, it's untrue. I finished the book, or got halfway through the book, and was like, right, that's it. I got rid of 3 black sacks full of my clothes. I literally pulled out all of my clothes. I did it bit by bit, did drawer at a time. So I was like, I haven't worn these in years. This doesn't actually bring me any joy. I don't need this. I don't think I feel comfortable in this. I'm not going to wear it again. And there's some things I took away from it, like the classic thing of, you know, you're only supposed to keep things if you've worn it in the last few years or if it brings you joy. And that's one of the things that stood out to me as well. I have so many clothes and things that I just keep just in case, or just in case there's an event that I might wear that. Like, I'd kept this dress that was my sister's. It's like a wedding dress, basically, a wedding guest, and I've not been to a wedding in years. I haven't got an invite to a wedding for any time soon. I was like, why am I keeping this on the off chance that I might go to a wedding? And even then I was like, I don't even like the dress, I can just buy you one closer to the time. So there were a lot of things that I did, and if you know me as well, my room is normally so cluttered, so messy. So I'm going to show you what it looks like now. So, I mean, it's still not amazing in terms of, like, the back of my door still has stuff on it. I've got some Hoover and stuff there. But, like, my bed has normally got junk all over it. My floor is normally covered in clothes that need putting away or something. This is clear normally, but obviously I've got my books out to talk to you today. Even, like, the canvases and stuff on my wall, I'm thinking of, like, getting rid of them. They have been there for probably, like, 3 years, maybe. Yeah, they've all been there for probably, like, 3 years now. And I just feel like, are they just clutter? Does it look cute, or is it just clutter? I have put some fairy lights up there as well, which I do quite like in the evenings. But the rest of it, I'm like, is that bringing me joy? Like, I love them. I think they're so pretty, and I love the things that they, like the words that they say on it. But I'm like, I don't wake up and read them every day. They're just kind of there. So I'm like, would it be better if I just had a plain wall? I've changed my duvet, so it's just a plain thing rather than like a messy pattern. Yeah, so I really recommend this. Literally to anyone. I've been recommending this book to people at work, to friends, family, etc. because I'm like, I feel like everyone can take something away from this, whether you want to be a minimalist to the complete extreme or not. But I also think that, like, so many, like, all of us have stuff that we keep just for the sake of it. Like, literally, you can tell I've only done kind of my clothes, not my belongings yet, because in my makeup thing here, I have a whole pot of hairbrushes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hairbrushes. Like, I don't need 7 hairbrushes. I don't know why I have 7 hairbrushes. So I'm yet to move on to that kind of like clutter of general things that I have, makeup, etc. That is what I was thinking, maybe doing a separate video on and saying how this book has made me want to declutter absolutely everything and take you on like a little de-haul, unhaul of all the things that I own basically, because I quite like watching those things. Like I know Stacey Solomon does I don't know what it's called, but like that TV program I've watched a couple of episodes of, that's basically like her saying to people like, you have so much shit, let's get rid of it. Anyway, so that's enough. Jessica Rose Williams, out January the 11th, 2022 by Watkins. Again, I've picked up my pace of my speech, but I'm aware that I'm probably just rambling at this point. Then finally, I read Empress and Ania, who is by the author, Empress and Ania, or Aniya, I don't know how you meant to say it, Candice Carty-Williams, who is the author of Queenie, who I've got that book, Queenie, downstairs, but I've not yet read it. Mixed opinions again, a lot of people say it's really good though. I really enjoyed this. This is definitely for a younger audience. It's a very, very thin book. Again, I think it took me an hour to an hour and a half to read, so it's a very quick book. It's about two best friends, two teenagers. They're complete opposite. One's kind of like the really popular one doesn't like talking or kind of like social situations. One is heavily rich and just has money at the click of the fingers, and the other kind of like more socially awkward friend is poor, to say the least, and it's about kind of like the differences between their friendship. There is technically a very small element of fantasy in it, and like I don't like fantasy, full stop. I'm kind of, no, that's not my kind of genre. Everyone likes different things, but for literally a day they technically wake up, they do this witchcrafty kind of thing, and they wake up and they swap bodies and see what it's like in each other's world. Not like a completely original idea, but that's not kind of the main premise of the book. I would say that kind of only happens 3/4 of the way through the book maybe. I thought it was just quite a sweet book, quite heartwarming. Like it says in the back, and they quickly learn that friendship is the most important magic of all, because you kind of learn they start sticking up for each other, etc. So definitely one for people that maybe are starting a new school, teenagers that are in secondary school, something like that. I think it's really cute books, and also like a stunning cover like that, shine, that foil there on the title. So yeah, there are the 5 books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that I read in November 20. Why is my camera moving? That I read in November 2021. I feel like there's kind of like a pink theme going on here. Apart from We Were Liars, they're all like pinkish books. And related to pinkish books, what I'm reading at the moment is another pinky book. It's A Quiet Kind of Thunder. I bought this ages ago from a recommendation from another booktuber, and I picked it up, have not read it in literally like a year. It's been on my bookshelf for about a year, and my mum actually read it recently when she went on holiday, and she was like, I think you'd really like it. I am not quite halfway through yet. I love the title, by the way, A Quiet Kind of Thunder. I think that's literally magical. I think that's so clever. It's about one person who's selective mute and one person who is deaf, and they become friends and they communicate through BSL, which is British Sign Language. I really like listening to this as someone that has a hearing impairment. So I wear a hearing aid, and I know the alphabet in BSL at the very least, or like how to say thank you, hi, goodbye, etc. Definitely think that BSL is something that we should have all learned in schools. Ridiculous that that wasn't a thing. And like in the start of each chapter, for example, if I can find, like they have little, is that gonna focus, little diagrams of what, oh, also on the pink thing, we've got pink nails, little diagrams of how to say each number. And it kind of gives you sometimes in some of the chapters, like this is how to say thank you, this is how to say please, etc. So you can kind of like learn that kind of stuff. It's kind of like an interactive book, really kind of sweet about how the world can mistreat you sometimes, about how fitting in can seem like the most important thing when you're at school, about how you can make friendships in the most bizarre ways and bond over really like massive differences in your life. I think it's probably more for a younger audience, again, more for like teenagers, very, very young adults. Nevertheless, I'm enjoying it, and I've heard so many good things about it. I posted on my Bookstagram that I was reading it, and I had a few comments saying that yeah, it's really enjoyable. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. I'm aware that I've just chatted for so long, so I hope you found that somewhat interesting. Hope you got some book recommendations from that. I'll leave all of the names and the authors in the description down below as always, and then it will be December and my last roundup of the year. I'm also thinking of doing this like reaction video, because I realised that in 2020 when I first started my YouTube, also I've just hit a milestone of like 1 year on YouTube. I did a video last year, no, a year ago, so all the books that I want to read in 2021, or the 21 books that I want to read in 2021, and I was going to kind of like watch it again and be like, have I actually read any of these, because I can't remember how many of them I put like what ones I put on there and how many of them I've actually read. So hopefully that'll be more of a fun bookish video to expect at the end of the year. Yeah, my next roundup will be my December 2021 roundup, so watch out for that soon. For now, thank you so much for watching and happy reading.